at Courts, bringing value home. Special conditions apply.
WEFM, the clean, fresh sound.
WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
And we are back with you for another segment of our Activated Mornings program here on WEFM. And with today being Monday, we are joined by Dr. Gerald Thompson. Doc, how are you?
I'm fine and wonderful. Oh boy, I tell you something. I had a great time last night. Oh my, I got massacred. Let me tell you that. So I'm in a happy mood this morning. I can tell you, I am an older individual who, when some of these reggae artists sing, I do not understand the words. I'm making that on a public enough, but you know what I did? In preparation for this, I started playing some of these songs. And lyrics, these things were good. I remember my days during the time of Marley and so forth. And all the persons say, you mustn't listen to Marley. Believe it or not, imagine that. Those that used to be a thinking at the time, it would influence you. I thought that Massacre is an creative of the highest order, and I really connected with what he was saying, and to hear the young folks singing the words as if this was there, I understood. I had a better understanding of what this was all about. So I was impressed. Okay. Right choice, right time, and respect to Massacre and the people who organized his visit there,
Okay. Well, fortunately, I'm a little older than you are, so I needed to go to bed because I had work at 6. So I couldn't get to stay up and look at it, but I'll look at the rest of it when I go home. So yeah, I know you're fully a young person, So yeah, you got to take it all in.
Yeah, well, I got to take it. I took it all in. Being a doctor, so you're up until 3, 4 in the morning taking care of patients. You have your ways of doing things. You know what how your energy sectors. But anyway, I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I thought the speeches were just on point. I mean, I tell you, some of them speeches now these days, the guys have really grown in terms of how they present, what they present on, the mixture with music, and so I think comes off very, very effective.
Okay. All right. There's one thing that I wanted to raise. In the first segment, we were talking about the rallies that I said that something I've been noting. Well, I noted at the NDP's rally on Saturday, and it was the messaging to persons in terms of what they were supposed to do on election day, right? Vinette Frederick was the hype woman. So she told the audience, those in attendance, and I realized that they were actually paying attention because when she said certain things and she asked them to repeat, they ended up repeating. So she made mention of the opening times for the polling stations, about getting in the line by 5 o'clock. She mentioned to them about practicing to mark the X if they know their hands are a little shaky. So there was a lot of direct messaging that was related to, especially so many of the young persons who were in attendance. That direct messaging was related to them in terms of what it is they need to do ahead of going to the elections. I can't quite say if I've heard the same messaging coming through from the ULP's side. I'm not sure if I missed something, but I know that I know that. Give me 1 second. Right. So give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Right. But what it is that I noted at that mass event that they had, the NDP had on Saturday, given that, okay, so I noticed that you're saying that they're doing it individually, but remember too that it's not just for the persons who were in attendance at the rally who heard that message, but it was also those persons who were watching on the stream, because I was watching on the stream, right? So that was quite important.
People may have gone to bed early.
So
and didn't see it.
And there are some people who went to bed early who, like myself, would go home later on and look at the video. All right.
Yes,
so
agreed,
the messaging is
agreed.
there contained in the video.
Agreed.
And I have to give I have to give props to the NDP. And in terms of Vinette's delivery, in terms of being that hype woman at the event on Saturday night, in terms of getting that messaging across to the young persons, especially first-time voters, in terms of what it is that they need to do. So commendations there.
Well, I tell you, I'm not ranting. I am not. I am a ULP supporter, folks. People may call and tell me, get off already if I'm a ULP supporter. But I believe the only message I want to say is that you're supposed to use a pencil to mark your X. If you go into the polling booth and you see someone either has deliberately left a pen there for you to use and you don't really study it, as has happened in the case, that's the message I want to give out today. I don't want to highlight the
messaging is that a pencil will be provided for you so that you don't need to walk with anything as well.
You don't need to walk with anything, but I'm saying to you, if someone has left a pen there, the person before you who has gone ahead of the line and recognized that, knowing there may be some ULP supporters behind, and left a pen there, hoping that the pen will distract and so forth, be very, very careful. That's the message I want to put out today. And there are a host of other things that you basically may not want to put out in mass. You want to put out specifically for your supporters. So, that's the message I want to give out this morning.
Okay, I see Queens has been trying to call all morning. Let me see what's
I
up.
thought we're going to go into your
we're going to go into it. But Queens morning, I noticed that you've been trying to call since 7:30. So after 7.
Yeah, and this would tie in a little bit with good morning. Sorry.
Good morning.
And this was fitting a little bit to what like Compton said. But some time ago, Kojo Mason mentioned about what NDP did to his father, F.O. Mason, superintendent of prison, when they came to power in 1984. Some positions are political appointee. I don't know if his position was political appointee. I remember Eustace had a list of 600 people that was fired when ULP came to power in 2001. Look, Candyman is working double overtime to see that NDP don't gain power. He's the press officer. Don't tell me you expect, if NDP win, for them to let him to continue to be the press officer. Likewise, former police officer Brenton Smith, he's working hard as General Secretary to make sure ULP don't get in power. So if NDP get in power and they appoint him police commissioner or some other high-profile position, and then ULP get back in power in 5 years later, I don't expect ULP to keep him there. Certain positions, you'll put certain people can't be in certain positions. You see all the leaks that is happening now?
Indeed.
With the $40,000 a month and the $144,000 a year, it's senior public servants that is leaking that information. So you can't keep certain people in certain position. One more thing, the Prime Minister says he and the police commissioner talk 3 and 4 times a day. There are certain secrets between them that's not going to go out to the public. Public servants are sworn to secrecy. We saw Otto Sam get suspended and fired. We see Roban from the tourism department suspended and fired. We see Anita Bishop, Anita Batiste getting suspended. Because you can't let certain information because you're sworn to secrecy. That is the way politics wins. Some people are not going to be there if NDP. That's just the way politics work.
Okay.
That's how it is all over the world.
Yeah. All right.
So
Well,
I could leave it there.
yes, you can. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, but Roleza, you know something? We already know there are lists. And these lists are not Candyman. They're not this assistant commissioner or that commissioner or so. They are people who have very ordinary positions. You understand? Because in the demand for creation of jobs, if it is said that unemployment is high, there are going to be NDP persons who are going to say, I want a job. And unless you double the $35 million salaries that's paid out every year, it does mean that some people who are, let's say, working in a kitchen in a school or certain other positions, you will see a number of these people go. And I have heard those threats being made, not at Candyman, but at very ordinary persons. And what life said is actually real. And whether it is that somebody says it in anger and the human nature of being rejected, or even going to a house and somebody say, I don't want you, get out of my yard, and so forth. You know, those things evoke certain emotions in everybody. You could smile and take it on the cheek, as you all have suggested, take it like a big man or a big woman, but sometimes it's hard. It's hard being rejected with an advancement to a lady, and she puts you down. I don't want you, you know. But
then you don't turn around, so that's the thing.
I tell you something. Does that happens? That happens, and it's wrong. And as I'm pointing out, it's wrong, but it happens. The fact that it's wrong is the fact that it happens. And in terms of the lists that are being put together, have been put together, and they're not extensive, but certain people who have been vocal and occupy positions, it was a feeling that they would go, and they're not Candyman. Yes, Sam? It is very ordinary positions I'm talking about. And I think Life was also mentioning.
Well, you know? I mean, I want to believe that on both sides.
On both sides.
It has happened because really and truly, there are some persons with some positions who are going to undermine the work that any administration is trying to do, whether it's ULP returns to office or whether it's NDP that gets into office in the first time, or even when there was that transition from NDP to ULP government. There are certain positions where persons would undermine the work that is being done. So there are certain positions where it's understandable where persons will be relieved of their duty and somebody else puts in their place. So I can understand where Queens is coming from.
Most civil servants, I don't understand where it's coming from. Most civil servants are actually quite protected. You may switch them around from one ministry to another, but you can't necessarily fire them because they protect themselves. A permanent secretary, you may shift around and so forth, but you can't really fire that permanent secretary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but something is interesting that is happening, and Queens also raised it, is the leaking of a lot of these documents that we're seeing. What has happened to the protection of information, confidentiality, etc. And I suppose I'm also happy to ask the question: why is it that persons are doing it not necessarily at this time, but why are persons doing it? Is it that even within the ULP, under the ULP government, with some current civil servants, are they too trying to undermine the administration?
There would always be that, because people see a rise. If a person above me goes, I might move up. You know what I mean? Or it might be more philosophical, in policy. I basically disagree with this.
Or maybe they're trying to highlight things to make the ULP and the administration look bad.
It can be. And it can be whistleblowing in one sense or the other. However, at the same time, whether each instance is so different. The point is that civil servants are fairly well protected. You can move them around one way, the other, from one ministry to another.
They asked me some of them too well protected, but anyways,
I'm not sure about that. I believe in civil servants. And
but Doc, sometimes in some cases, all you're doing is transferring the problem
with the president.
All you're doing is transferring the problem to a different position.
He endorsed the NDP. I didn't bring it out. The president or the chairman, whatever, endorsed the city. But I believe the majority of civil servants are going to support you. And life's call for civil servants to support the ULP, I want to endorse that. And people would have criticized that, but you can't do that without criticizing that the head of the Public Service Union said, I'm endorsing the NDP. You understand? That is a whole kettle of fish, but that's within his right, that union's right, and so forth. And whether he pulls as a result of his wand and his wish, basically, I don't think that will be sustained. So life's call is in one respect. He's not a civil servant, but, oh yes, he is.
Mm-hmm.
He became a civil servant, right? He was private and then became a civil servant. But on the other hand, the president of that particular union is justified in doing the same thing.
But Doc, when you made this point, right, back in 2001, didn't the ULP also have the strength of the unions back then? How is it okay? Not okay now, and it was back then.
No, I'm not saying that. I am saying, how is it bad for life to basically make the endorsement?
Yeah, but you introduced the point of the unions.
No, I am saying it's fine. I am saying it's fine. It's fine for life to do it. You can't have a double entendre where it's wrong for life, but it's right for the president because it happened before. With the unions happened before. I'm saying it's okay also for life to call and say so. He's an individual. And he's expressing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. Anybody could be endorsing anybody for whatever reason. We understand the reason why life gave, but it's still. I'm not sure you understood it. It's still. What do you mean I don't understand? What do you mean I didn't understand it?
All right, let's leave it. Let's move on to the next thing. Let me leave it. I can go down a different route. Let me leave that.
You always start this morning.
I don't want to start this morning. I don't want to start because I think we have a lot of other things to cover.
I totally understood where life was coming from, but the point that I was going to make, it still does come down to an individual choice, and you also still have to weigh certain things as the voter. So while it is that, yes, I understood where life is coming from and the points that he raised and what led him to it, it still has to come down to you, the individual. All right?
Yes. Massacre.
So why you say massacre at the end of what I just said?
No.
All right, so let me just quickly touch on this before we head on out. So there's an article here on One News, SVG, and it says unpredictability multiplied as general election nears a statistician says. All right. So what they have noted, and the stats are broken down per constituency, and interestingly, each constituency now has an increase of voters, right? Each constituency, there has been an increase in voters. So in this election that's coming up on Thursday, in 9 seats, there is an increase of 4,091 new voters, new registered voters. So it means that the call that was call that went out for persons to go and get registered, that call was answered, and we are in for a very tight race. But while I say this, I remember Doc was making a prediction of 12-3. So is that still your prediction, Doc?
Well, you everybody, I'm not really responding off the cuff. She sent me last night that she was going to ask me a question.
Yes.
So I had a little time to prepare. And there's certain things that I know. And guess what I'm going to start out, everybody? I'm going to start out with 2 seats, East Kingston and the Northern Grenadines. I'm starting out with the concept. If releases from in. And
no, I'm trying to figure out what you mean. Go ahead.
I'm starting out with the concept that what Jomo Thomas and what Linton Lewis have said is that once court cases have been brought, then you are going to see those 2 seats probably being turned over, not for by-election, but for the person who ran at the same time. So 2 seats. Then, in terms of the 7 seats on the Windward side, plus what is considered to be Central Leeward, the 8th seat, which includes North Windward, Grace Walters winning predominantly because of her preponderance and dominance in Sandy Bay, the largest village, larger than nowhere. You understand? You are going to see that just from those 8 seats alone, 8 is greater than what is known as 7. However, that brings them government. I said 2 before, I'm saying 8. And then you heard me before talking about 2 other seats. A gentleman who's probably visited us more than anybody else, Grenville Williams, in which this particular studio lies in terms of South Leeward, and another south in terms of the Southern Grenadines, but to watch those 2 particular seats for what I consider is very close tight rate. Now that might bring it up to 13, but I'm talking about one of those seats and seeing 12. So that 8 plus 2 plus 1,
So you're saying 11 for now?
I am no. I am saying that looking at those 2 seats, I said 13. I mentioned 12 seats. And when I made that prediction, I was always talking about the Southern Grenadines. Oh, I might fall short of that. But to win government, you need 8 seats. And I am saying, whether court cases or not, and when I made that prediction, I had known of that predicament that would have befallen the
candidates for East Kingstown and Northern Grenadines.
Once Friday had said and announced, he has his Canadian passport in his front pocket and his Vincentian passport in his back pocket, the bottom that he sits on, then it was clear that he was now providing evidence in himself. And on Friday, notices were published in the newspapers and so forth, which is a prerequisite for this. And noting the history of Denzel Douglas, what's happening in Jamaica and other places and so forth, that essentially, the framework has been made, whether the government goes through with the court cases or not, those 2 seats. But I'm putting that as not just icing on the cake, not just cherries and so forth. They're significant in themselves. I am talking about the 8 seats, including North Windward and Central Leeward, gives you government to begin with. And you build on that in relation. Now, what I didn't also mention was the North Leeward seat. When you asked me about 11 and so.
Well, I tell you, call them out, and you didn't want to call them out?
No, I'm talking about now. I'm talking about a minute ago. What I was trying to imply was that the 8 seats I mentioned, plus the North Leeward seat, making 9. The 2 seats, basically East Kingstown and the Southern Grenadines, East Kingstown and Northern Grenadines, basically coming up with the 11, as said, and then one of the seats, the Southern Grenadines and South Leeward coming through, maybe both. In other words, I don't want to revise and say 13, but, and I haven't revised to say 11, because I knew you would have come back and say that sounds like 11, but you should have noted the North Leeward seat, which was in the camp of the ULP before, by 1 vote. Really, that's not one. Many people say it's 1 vote, And make us say everybody that was 30-something votes, but because a number of votes were spoiled, because people somehow or the other use a pen, were encouraged to use a pen to mark their vote.
How you? But I try.
You don't understand. I'm making a public announcement that you already know about. I repeated it, like what I said before. Remember the pen. You can't use a pen. You got to use a pencil. and inside the edges of other people. Don't be fooled if you see a pen sitting down there. It may be something of a trick. And don't take it.
How you know people ain't walk with their own pen and decide to use their own pen? How you know that?
A person takes in a pen and
people could have walked with a pen inside their own pockets.
Use a pencil, but I tell you something, the investigations and so forth, I'm telling you, being done has been revealing.
All right.
I'm revealing. You don't know about this, Roleza.
Yeah, well,
I'm not talking about it on the radio.
Things could also be said, but yeah.
I'm not going into detail. You can speculate. But what I'm saying on the evidence that I know, as a person from North Leeward, that seat should have been won by 30-something votes, right? And it was not only one vote. However, we will see. And I put it, the North Leeward seat is number 9. You understand? And 10 and 11, you heard me in terms of court cases. And number 12 will come from one of the Southern Grenadiers or the South Leeward seat. I hope I made my case. You know, she sent me that last
all you had to do was tell me 12-3 still, you know.
I'm not that versed in this stuff or eloquent and so forth. But she sent me last night, so I was able to prepare a little bit.
Yeah, well, right. It was based on the fact that there were more registered voters. That's why it is I asked you about it, right? Yes.
But what she was trying to do, she tried to say, well, Doc, you are wrong here, man. Because there's more registered voters.
How could I say that you're wrong? Nobody would know until Friday morning.
It doesn't matter about the more registered voters. It is the distribution of those registered voters.
And there is a breakdown inside of the article as well.
I know.
So
which constituency? And the point is that well, it may not be 12, but for sure it's 8.
Okay. All right, Doc. We could leave it there. We could leave it there.
And
right?
Then we see 10 and 11 and number 12.
I just wanted to see if you had shifted your position from the 12-3.
I made my case, and everybody seems as if I've shifted my position. Far from it. I am showing you where my position came from and still stands.
All right.
At the time I made this, I didn't mention about the court cases that might have come. And she had asked me to do so, but I wasn't so foolish to go and do that. You know what I mean? I wasn't so foolish to go and do that.
That you something else, no. But anyhow, all right. So with this, we are heading. Doc, and you see, you need to do your commentary, and then you went over time. All right.
I didn't do my commentary. Let me do it.
No, not okay. Let's take a break and then we come back. All right. So very shortly, we'll be back with more Activated Mornings here on WEFM.